But see, that's where we
Nice.
lose. We want everything now, instant gratification. But I teach even professional athletes and CEOs, I said, it's delayed gratification. You have to learn. We have to put in the work, but we don't have to crush ourselves. We just have to have a little bit each day.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performance Life podcast. Today, we have a very special episode. We have Daniel DeLuise on the line with us here today. He is a performance coach, a corporate stress reduction specialist, a biohacker, mindfulness, meditation, breath work, and yoga instructor, Wim Hof instructor, breathwork coach, meditation, mindfulness coach. He studied under various teachers around the world, including Wim Hof, spiritual gurus, yoga masters, shamans. He's trained in ashrams in India, and he's also now hired by different militaries around the world because he does an amazing blend of the esoteric as well as the physical. And I'm going to let him explain a little bit more about that. But I'm really excited for this really special episode today. Daniel, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me there, man. This is awesome. I'm really glad to be here and do some sharing.
Amazing. Well, let's start with a brief background of kind of like of how you got to where you are today, and then we'll jump into some of the tools and strategies and things you're doing.
Sure. Like, kind of like yourself, we come from a background of being unwell to finding wellness. And myself, I ended up with some pretty severe spinal cord, like lower back injuries, what put me in bed for a couple of years. And of course, I was doing all the stuff I was supposed to, physio and that, but wasn't helping. Got on a lot of medications, developed a lot of mental health issues from that. And then I found yoga, went and lived at an ashram. And then from there, I just kind of became obsessed with the kind of holistic side of it, breath work, yoga. I was, pretty much in bed for 2 years, and then I'm running around playing soccer, volleyball, depression's going away, anxiety was dropping. Then I decided to travel the world, see what I could find out there, plant medicines in the jungle, to climbing, mountains with Wim Hof in my shorts, became an instructor through him. And it was really when I found that Wim Hof that I really decided that I wanted to look into the scientific part of it, because Wim was very much, he's such a beautiful person because he's a real person, and he took the esoterical also that he studied, but then he put it into a mind-body thing. And then that's been really my body of my work, working with militaries to law enforcement, to just everyone, trying to give them back the power of their physical and mental well-being. And, it's been 20 years doing this stuff. I've tortured myself a little bit along the way to find out what works. But, stress is a good thing if you use it properly. And, the chronic stress is what's really hurting us today, and technology and that stuff. I'm just, I'm trying to teach people in performance to find a balance between these things, to be able to find what I call, true happiness, which is peace of mind. And, health is wealth. And you know that yourself from where you come from. So, I get to teach corporately. I do a lot of workshops. Did a tour of South America. I was in Brazil. I just came back. Actually, I was just assisting Wim as a group leader, we had 300 people in our biggest winter experience ever. And it was awesome. We climbed Mount Schneska, and when we got to the top, it was minus, I don't know, 30 with the wind chill, 50-kilometer-an-hour winds, and these brave souls climbed in their shorts, and it's amazing what the mind and the body can do when you connect them, and kind of connect to that technology that's inside. We're so obsessed with the technology outside. My job in performance coaching is to introduce them to this technology inside. And when we get grasp of this technology and start to control it, then, the possibilities are pretty much endless. And you can see stuff like Wim Hof. These things are possible to get into ice water when we're programmed that it's not a good thing to do. Well, these short-term stresses, and that's what I really focus on, is how to stress the mind and the body properly each day to optimize, that performance that we all want. We want to wake up feeling fresh from a good night's sleep, and we want to, crush the day, man. So, that's kind of where I come from. I mean, you can see I can talk, so I want to leave it at that. And, let's have some fun today, my man.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's a great start. And I think most people are familiar with Wim Hof that are listening, but maybe there's a bunch of people that aren't. So there's one thing I wanted to, he's kind of known as the Iceman. So he kind of started the whole cold shower, ice bath, huge trend that's going on right now and showing all the health benefits of it. But there was one really interesting thing that you could probably explain a little better than I can, which I think is how the science and this mind body and how everything relates. And so what was the story of how he got like injected with something, right? They hit him with some like virus or something, right? They basically gave him a virus, and he wanted to prove that through his breath work and that kind of stuff, that basically it wouldn't affect him, essentially, something like that, right?
Right. Yeah. And Wim was, he saw, like, Wim actually started when, his wife committed suicide, when he was very young, and they had 4 children. They had Enem, Isabel, Laura, and Michael. And I mean, he was stuck with taking care of these kids, and he wasn't educated, didn't have money. And, he was really down, and you could imagine, like, it was a woman he was supposed to spend the rest of his life with. And all of a sudden, so he was looking in, I think, he went to the esoterical, he went and looked for the answers there. He couldn't find them. And, and then he went yoga and everything from Kung Fu and all these different Sufism, whatever. He studied everything. And then he started, he remembered when he was young, he went to the cold, and the cold gave him this feeling. And he said it was almost drawing him there. And then when he started to practice again cold therapy, like putting himself in these extremely cold situations, he found that this mind-body connection came. This cocktail of hormone comes out, and he's feeling amazing. And he said, like, he says his family, helped him survive, but the cold healed him, his soul. So, he dove into that, and people weren't listening because, he was looked at as a daredevil. He could do all this crazy shit. And, he started to break all these world records. So Feinstein Institute and all these big organizations started going, let's bring him in. And after Feinstein, it was back in 2008, I'm not really sure. But after that, Radboud looked at it and went, oh my God, like, he's doing what he's saying he can do. He can control his autonomic nervous system. He's influencing deeply the response of the immune system. So all of a sudden, Radboud pulls him in, and they're like doing these stuff on him, and they're testing his blood, and they're looking at it going, yeah, you can do some pretty amazing stuff. They said, well, if you can do that, then you should be able to ward off an endotoxin, but it's a dead cell wall. So, it's an E. coli virus that they put in you, and your body just, it detects the invader. It acts with inflammation, sweating, nausea, headache, and that's how you feel. Like, everybody does that. So, they did that. I think it was 16,100 and so many, 34 times, I believe, to people for big farm testing, with drugs to see how it worked when people were injected with this E. coli. And they said, well, if you can do that, and you're doing this with your body, we should be able to inject you. And they did. They injected him, and he was doing the power breathing, bringing, up adrenaline. And so he was bringing down the response, and he got like barely a slight headache. And they were like, that's awesome. But, it's not in the books because it's not a double-blind study. So they asked him, and it was really cool. They asked him, they said, well, how long, we can make this science, but we have to do it properly. Can we, can you train some people? How long will it take you? 6 months, a year, or whatever? And he goes, oh, just give me a couple of weeks. And they picked 18 random people, trained them for 4 days up in the mountains in Poland, in Olympia, where we do our winter experiences. And, after I think 4 or 5 days, they climbed Mount Shneska to like minus 27 in their shorts. And he said, you're ready. They went back to Poland. They trained. They were just supposed to do their, meditation, breath work, cold, showers and therapy. And they picked the 12, came back, and those guys had all the same thing across the board. Of course, they had the double control study. And then from that moment on, that's when it really picked up, because the Vice documentary jumped in. And now they're like, well, we can't dispute it now because it's now in the books. So that's when it really started. And then, of course, he's going all these different places. They want him on there. He's doing stuff that you're not supposed to be able to do, right? And, I don't recommend trying to climb mountains at minus 30 in your shorts. There's a very big, huge safety side of this. and I mean, you take a 2-minute ice bath, it gives you some major benefits. Like we can go on, I could talk science for hours about that, but,
Yep.
inflammation down, cold, helps to bring up the mood level. You're releasing dopamine or adrenaline. Like this cocktail makes, you can't be depressed. You can't have anxiety. You feel amazing. Your body, you feel
Yep.
charged. You have this energy. So yeah, you're right. It's becoming a trend, but we're trying to keep it as a method because it should be a method for wellness, and we love the fact everybody's jumping in. But I mean, if you're out there, guys, and you're doing cold therapy, pushing isn't good. This is gradual, short term. We're seeing a lot, my colleagues that work in University of Ottawa here, we're seeing a lot of, non-freezing cold injuries, which are, things that people aren't realizing that, they're pushing their bodies, but you don't have to push your spot. We like to push yourself. It's trying to find the sweet spot. And the sweet spot, I like to say, is that, here's your comfort zone. Just go outside a tiny bit. Do 2 minutes in the bath, do 1 minute and do a 30-second cold shower. Just get out of your comfort zone, because the comfort is what's kind of killing us. Because when we continue to reach for comfort and press buttons and not have to get up or move the body or challenge the mind each day, what happens is we're starting, like Wim says, we're losing the deepest capabilities of our minds and our bodies, right? So, but yeah, he's amazing. If he was on here right now, he's like anybody else, man. He's just a normal guy that can do some crazy shit.
Nice, man. Yeah. And I wanted to make that point. I wanted to make that point so that people really understand, like, there are natural things that you can do through your own breath work, right? Through ice baths and cold showers that can have better results than taking medication, right? Like, I mean, we know that, like, exercise, cold baths, cold showers, breath work, again, I'm not making any claims or anything like that, but we've seen time and time again, I'm sure you've seen even way more than me, how literally people can have much better results for depression, mood, lowering inflammation, all sorts of things compared to taking medications. Now, I personally have been talking about how I finish my shower on cold for, probably 3-4 minutes nowadays. I started 30 seconds, went up to a minute and a half, 2, 3. And now I'm addicted to cold showers. Like I know when I finish that cold shower, my brain is going to be alert. Everyone's talking about nootropic supplements these days. There is no better nootropic than taking a cold shower or hopping in an ice bath. But you also make a good point. You don't need to go in an ice bath for 20 minutes, especially if you're just starting out, right, as a new person. I did that. Unfortunately, one time I was with a bunch of my buddies and we're having a little competition who can stay in the longest. And we weren't very well trained and weren't doing, probably the breathing we should have. And I stayed in for, I think, 20 minutes because I wanted to beat my buddy. And then that didn't work out too well for me. But I think 2, 3, 4 minutes, right, especially if people are working their way up, humongous, tremendous benefits. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And we have a saying, and I mean, Wim says it. He says, Mother Nature is righteous, but she can be merciless, and she will kick your ass every time. And that's where we got to find the sweet spot. And this competition thing that we're seeing, and we're seeing a lot of, people having, myelin, which is the sheath of the nerves. When your hands are freezing and you feel that constriction, which happens here because the blood gets pushed to this area to, conserve and protect the organs. When you feel that severe pain, that's the myelin being crushed. So you don't need to feel that pain. You can put your arms under here, protect them, heat them, bring them outside if you have to. Use neoprene gloves, because if you continue to go through that pain, then you actually damage that, and then that can lead to chronic pain or even then just numbness in the hands. So there's a lot out there. In the Wim Hof camp, we're teaching people to be safe with this. Except where we see a lot of cowboys out there.
Most of the people climbing mountains, then they're wearing obviously shoes and gloves protecting their feet and hands. Most importantly, it seems like. I didn't know that. That's a good distinction.
Definitely. Like, we prepare them for a few days beforehand, and we can see if they're ready because we're all highly trained that way, and I can see if somebody's struggling. Then, you don't push yourself. You've already got to the point. When you start to struggle, that's when you stop. And when you climb, you got to have stuff on. You have your hiking boots, warm boots on. You have warm wool socks. You have wool mittens, and mittens are even better because they'll hold in the heat a lot better. Okay, they're thermal. And then you have a hat, because this is the places you lose, right? And we have to realize that it's about testing our limits, but not going to the danger zone, outside the comfort zone, growth zone, but the danger zones there, and people climb. It's amazing. We watch people that can do it, and we like to say you're conquering the mountain on the inside when you conquer the mountain on the outside. And that's what we're really there for you. Like, when the slowest person, if there's somebody slow, we had a guy with a knee issue in our group, we put him at the front because we're the pack. We go together. We slow down. And then sometimes I said, that's your challenge for the day, because you'll have guys there that are like, let's go. And I'm like, now you can calm down. Because for me, it's much about focus. It's taking focus, because to me, somebody that can focus this day and age, especially with all the distraction, someone that can focus is the superhuman of the future, man. And that's what this method could really teach us, is this mind-body connection, because the mind-body, instead of pulling us out with the electronics, the distraction, the dopamine loop, getting stuck in that place where we think that, oh, I'm okay over here, but then that's just shrinking the comfort zone so that we can't handle stress. Anxiety's up, depression's up. And that's why, I say it to the instructors. Madi, my buddy, he's from Finland. He was in my room. He's another instructor. And we were saying, like, we have the opportunity to teach people, if they use this properly, this conquers like the technology thing and the ability not to handle stress. Like, it is incredible, because that guy come from a little bit of PTSD, and, I could handle that with, my yoga breath work, and I was fine. But I truly feel that this cured it. I mean, this wiped it out. I have no doubt about that. And watching the people I've worked with, and I put over, I think I count now. I like analytics. I put over 2,200 people in ice baths now in controlled settings and teaching them, and I want them to go away with the instruction that keeps it sustainable. I don't like it. I can see when they come to my workshop and they're there just to get the selfie and put it on Instagram and show their friends that, oh yeah, look what I did, the Wim Hof. I want them to leave and take it so that it can improve them and make them happier, healthier, and stronger, so that's the goal.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And let's kind of talk a little bit more. Like, probably most people listening, I hope more people do, but probably most aren't gonna climb a mountain, with their shirt off in negative 20 degrees weather. But let's talk about more like in the normal kind of corporate world setting, or like with the athletes that you're training and different things that you're doing there. What are some of the things, like, let's say you go, you get called in by a sports team, as you have been before, to come in. What are some of the things that you're working with them to achieve peak performance, with athletes like that?
See, that's a great question. And it's funny when I go in and I start to talk to them and they want to hear about breath work, ice bath, and all that. And I said, yeah, but that only leads to one thing for performance, is sleep and recovery. Number one. When I work in the corporate world or wherever, I explain, I said, we're going to develop, I'm here, we're going to do some ice bathing, breathing, mindfulness techniques, give motivational talks on this stuff to them. But I said, at the end of the day, when I leave, I have a protocol for you in the morning, how you wake up and how you go to bed. And then throughout the day, there's multidisciplinary breath techniques that can help you sustain the level of function that you want for the body to produce the optimization of the function on the outside. So if you're doing emails, you can stop, take a few minutes, do some box breath, or slow in, slow out, even it down. So both sides of the nervous system, sympathetic energy, parasympathetic, we're resting and digesting. So we can focus, we're not distracted. In the morning, how about we wake up the system? Because when we do the breath, the Wim Hof stuff, you're inhaling, with a little force in. You do 30, 40 of those, you hold your breath, you're producing noradrenaline, you're producing this energy, but you're vasoconstricting 120,000 kilometers, actually 80,000 miles. You guys are in the States, right? Mostly. And then opening up during holding the breath, becoming more hypoxic. So, you're waking the body up. I like to wake the body up, then calm it down, do a coherence breath that I put in, which is 6 in, 6 out, which science shows brings the mind and the heart into coherence. And see, that's where I tell them, you don't touch your phone for an hour and a half. You don't touch caffeine for an hour and a half. Let the cortisol levels come down. There's a lot, little biohacks that all of a sudden their mornings go different. And then their evenings, same thing. Darken the lights. You can do your cold shower. Make sure you can do that even an hour and a half before bed. It gives you a parasympathetic drop, stimulating vagus nerve. But see, my whole thing and everything that I implement, whether it's ice bathing, breathing, is to get them to the point where at night they lay down, they do a breath technique, 4-7-8, the sleeping pill breath, and they fall asleep in 2 breaths. And they sleep deep. And I got a lot of them to do the whoop and stuff so we can monitor. But, you know, I want them getting 2.5 hours of deep sleep and 3 hours of REM. That's the goal. But most people are getting 45 minutes REM, 30 minutes deep, and they're waking up exhausted, recaffeinating. You know, people have anxiety and they're having trouble sleeping. You know what I say? Quit caffeine. You know what they look at me and they go, "You."
Right.
Because that's their, "Oh, it's my only vice." I go, "Well, you're not going to perform well if you're not sleeping well." So to me, it's about sleep. Because when I started to really focus on sleep about 6-7 years ago, you know, you ask my wife, man, I lay down and I mean, it starts to get dark 3 hours before. I don't eat 4 hours before. There's a whole list. If I'm starting to drink too much caffeine, I get off it. If I'm not sleeping, I can tell. But I have my weighted blanket. I tape my mouth. I have wax driven into my ears. I have the thing on my eye. I look like the sleeping princess, man. I'm like laying there, but my wife will tell you, I'll do that 4-7-8 breath. And I do coherence also before to really balance nervous system, quiet it down. And then I'm able to do a 4-7-8, stimulate the vagus nerve. And she says I'm asleep in sometimes the first, second breath. But see, that took me 6 years because I look at sleep as a skill. And your sleep, if you can sleep, it starts at the beginning of the day. You jump out of bed and you're DEFCON 5 all the way. And then all of a sudden you lay down and go, "I'm just going to flip the switch and turn it off." Ain't going to happen. So it's being able to find the mind-body connection and start applying the biohacking techniques. If that's where I like to use that word, because a lot of people need that robust, digestible thing. And then I say mind-body, because there's a lot of people out there that are just more intuitive, and you can develop that skill. It's incredible, man. You're just learning to listen to what your body needs and not to what your mind wants. That's key right now, because that's what people do, right? Like they want that. Let's press that button. I can get that real quick.
Right. That's really good stuff, man. Because actually, I've heard a lot of people talk about sleep, but I haven't heard too many people talk about how, first of all, doing cold exposure at some point during the day actually helps your sleep. How the breathing, how you wake up and do these energizing. You know, I've done Wim Hof breathing myself in the mornings a lot of times, especially if I'm like feeling a lack of energy. It just really oxygenates and energizes your body, and I highly recommend people look into learning that as well. And yeah, these are things that actually make a difference in how we sleep. I actually just bought some more sleep tape yesterday as well. I haven't heard of the wax in the ear before. That's one thing I've never heard before. What's that about, real quick? I'm curious.
Well, you can get the foam earplugs, but I like the wax ones, and I get my clients, and then you can you manipulate. It's just a ball of wax, but you get it into a nice little point, so you can get it right in there. You push it in, and honestly, I use that on the planes because I travel a lot. I was just over, and I took a bunch of planes to get over to Poland, and kids are screaming, people are, and people are freaking out. I put those wax in, and I put my noise canceling thing. I sleep for 8 hours on that flight, wake up, people around me are like, "What the?" But I also practice sleeping on a plane. I have my own protocol on the plane. So, I look at the opportunity to be on the plane as I can rest, I think it's also forward thinking that, to me, recovery, whether, we're teaching military or I'm teaching first responders, or just, a CEO or the average Joe that just wants to if you sleep and you're prepared and you're well rested and recovered, whatever you're doing, you do so much better. 20, 30, 50% better, because cognition, the energy you have, the exchange, because we're just energy, right, man? We're exchanging energy right now. You and I are. and I think we're doing pretty good, so,
Yeah,
but
man.
it's, we have this thing, even we started off with this wellness thing in common, right? So, I think it's able to read where you are, what you're doing, and being able to be prepared so that you can then recover well. Because when you recover well, then you're prepared again. You see what I mean? There's this cycle that
Yeah,
happens, and
for sure.
and and I work with like athletes, like I watch them just change all of a sudden. They're sleeping, they're not worried. I get them in mindset, growth mindset. Carol Dweck changed that for me in her book, Stanford. She's University Stanford prof, and I get athletes to stop complaining about the coach. This is what the reason why. I said, no, growth mindset is realizing you playing the victim, you're blaming it on somebody else. What can you do right now, even a little bit at a time, right? Because we're always overestimating what we can do in a week, and we're underestimating, the long game, what we can do in a year, and that's why people get crushed at New Year's. They make the big list. I'm going to run a marathon. They run out the next day, New Year's Day, they run 5K. And they can hardly move. And I explained to them, how about running 100 meters every day, another 100 more. In 30 days, you're running 3,000 meters. And a really good one was a guy came and I helped the guy with some pretty heavy addiction to opioids. And his buddy came in with trying to quit cigarettes for like 20 years. And I said, okay, how many do you smoke? He wanted to just do Wim Hof. He wanted to do ice bathing, breathing. And I said, well, that's going to work, but I want to get the underlying here. I said, how many do you smoke? He says, 20. I said, okay. And I remember it was Tuesday. I said, you know what? Smoke 19 today. Tomorrow, next day, next Tuesday, smoke 18 for that week, then 17, then 16. And he says to me, he goes, well, I came here to quit. And I said, well, you will. And he goes, well, it's going to take like 19 weeks. And I said, want to try this? And I said, you've been trying for 20 years and you haven't done it. So, you know what? And I said, listen, you can drop it down to 10 to 7 to whatever, but just go slow as, how you feel. Listen to your body. I think in 7 weeks, he calls me, he goes, no more cigarettes. But see, that's where we lose. We want everything now, instant gratification. But I teach even professional athletes and CEOs, I said, it's delayed gratification. You have to learn. We have to put in the work, but we don't have to crush ourselves. We just have to have a little bit each day. Like do one round of breath and take a cool shower, or just bring it down less than you're used to the heat and the comfort. You do that for a week, all of a sudden you're going, I can do a little more. Oh, I'll do 2 rounds of breath. Oh, a little more. Next thing you know, in 6 months, they're calling me going, ice cold showers. I do all the breath work, because you're laying the foundation. Because, we have a body and a mind that's plastic. The mind can be molded how we want it to. We just have to learn, because we're getting too much into the technology, wanting everything quick, and this technology, it don't work like that.
Yeah, the technology of the body for people who are listening. Yeah, that's really good stuff, man. What about like your time in what about kind of I love blending and going back and forth between like the science and the physical body and the esoteric stuff. And you spent time traveling the world and ashrams, and you even mentioned kind of, militaries and people like that, bringing you on for like intuitive type, training and mindfulness type stuff. Talk a little bit about what are some things that, that you've learned and that maybe would be beneficial for people to learn about from that side of things.
Well, I think it really goes back to a mind-body connection, because we get so much in our minds and we're so stuck in what we see, especially out there. There's a lot of information coming in. And I always tell people, no matter what, and I even tell them in my talks, I'll say, don't believe a word I say. Go out there, try these things. It's coming from my experience, what I've done myself, and then, make the evaluation then. So the thing is it's about performance, especially when it comes to military CEOs. I work with a crypto guy, and like I explained to them that, okay, we need to come back to a balance. And when we get into too much of well, this is the way it is, technology does this, but it's understanding that there's the technology outside, but it's the technology within. And see, there's nothing better. And I explained to them, meditation is the GOAT, the greatest of all time for physical and mental well-being. But the
Mhm.
problem with meditation, because world is moving so fast, you try to get a CEO, a workaholic to sit down and watch his thoughts. Well, 5 minutes later, he wants to jump out the window.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what I've done is I've explained to them, I'm not even going to get you to meditate. I'm going to get you to do this hack, breathing 6 in, 6 out, the coherence. So it does bring us into a meditative state extremely quickly, but it gives the mind something to do. So I think that,
Mhm.
being those 10 years that I did esoterical, and I still teach my yoga. I taught a couple classes today. I love that esoterical, but when we blend, the yogis kind of knew back then. They go, well, you slow your exhale down, you slow your heart rate down. We're taught
Mhm.
biology. We're taught biology, right? Biology teaches
Mhm.
us inhale oxygen, that exchanges for CO2, and they say oxygen good, CO2 bad. But actually, CO2 is actually great for the body. It tells you when to breathe. It
Mhm.
has all kinds of, when you manipulate it, can have all kinds of positive effects on this, especially, you've heard of intermittent hypoxic training, creating more red blood cells. We can go into that whole thing. But when we start to blend both of them, and that's where I found, because people are so much into one thing and they make their mind up. But if you give them the option of everything, and even in my class today, I'll throw a little bit, not science in there, but just digestible, robust information showing that, okay, this is technology. This can do this, but we have the most advanced technology on the planet. And, one of the best things you can do for your mind to sharpen your intellect or create a stronger mind is sitting quietly. But see, we're only practicing distraction, and we practice.
Mhm.
And the thing is we're a cellular machine that adapts. So that means that if we practice distraction all the time, then we're going to be just distracted. We're going to get good at it. And then we're going to get good at worrying. And I always explain it this way. I said, the mind body connection, if you keep that through meditation, mindfulness practices, breath work, then when you're in the technology on the outside world, you can see where you're like, okay, whoa, 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 I'm feeling a little bit, I got to take a break. Because I even
Mhm.
teach especially engineers and these types that are more intellectual, like they're on that side of science. I'll say, no. I said, you work 45 minutes and now you stop for 15 minutes and sit in silent meditation, do some breath work. And they're like, well, I got to get shit done. And I said, well, no, watch what happens. Well, their
Mhm.
productivity goes up 30% all of a sudden. They're
Right.
like, wow. So it's understanding that, we want to stress because we think we need to have stuff done. And it comes from evolution millions of years ago, for always being on guard. Because when we left the cave, you and I left the cave to go hunting. As soon as we got out, we were like, okay, try not to get killed, try not to get killed. But see, we fast forward at 5, 10, whatever, 1,000 years till now. We see a guy at the water cooler that triggers us because he did something to us at work, told on us, said something, whatever your excuse is, and you get angry. Well, that's that same chemistry. You're
Mm.
you're on the Sahara being chased by a lion. But see, that thought process is always there. It's called fear-based thinking, survival mode. But I teach people, I said, all your survival needs have been met. Why are you worrying? But we want to worry because we think
Mm.
that's necessary. And I said, okay, it's fine, worry. But what happens if we can come over here and just relax? But that needs to be practiced. And a lot of that's through the esoterical, through the more, and it's not even esoterical anymore. They know when you sit quietly, you slow your mind down. If you focus on a metronome and breathe 6 in, tick, tick, and 6 out in 20 minutes, your blood pressure's down, your heart brain reaches a coherence, and this is science, and all the systems begin to harmonize. So
Mm.
we can
So that's
blend
just
the
six,
two.
just 6 seconds, kind of like through your nose, expanding, letting your stomach expand out 6 seconds, and then
Out
just
of
6 seconds out, expand, kind of exhaling through
Yeah,
your nose as well, letting your stomach
yeah.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And what it is you find the sweet spot, like, and I mean, you're going to give my information and all that stuff, I guess, later on when you send out
Yeah.
the newsletter, and that I'll put down my, my YouTube channel and stuff, because, I do just a simple stuff. Like, I mean, I'm just getting on YouTube and Instagram because I guess the internet has taken off from what they're telling me. So I'm getting all my, So all my clients, like even Gabe Velarde from the LA Kings, like I'm like, Gabe, I'm trying to send him a video, and I'm like, Gabe, why don't I just put it on the YouTube? That's much easier. So now I'm building up YouTube, and all of a sudden I got like 1,000 subscribers. I'm like, holy shit, this is good. And then I got 20,000 all of a sudden on Instagram. I'm like, going, wow, I guess this stuff works. But yeah, so there's a great video on my YouTube that I explain, you know, and it was for a couple of my corporate clients is, you know, you breathe 6 in really soft, about 40% of the lung capacity. And then you breathe out softly 6, and you can put your metronome on, you know, in the video I explain it. And then I say, just get a metronome. You can do it anywhere. You don't have to watch my video again. But there's also little nuances that I teach when I'm doing, you know, corporate, like private coaching, you know, individuals and stuff, where, you know, when you inhale and you're inhaling for 6 and you start to focus on the exhale being really soft transition so they connect. Well, that has a huge super impact on the reptilian brain, slowing it down. So, you know, a lot of these corporate guys come on and they're like going, well, I want to do the Wim Hof, you know? And I'm like, no, we're going to do 6 in, 6 out for 20 minutes. What do you mean? And then all of a sudden they get it. Because after that 20 minutes, that first sesh, they're like going, what's going on? I feel something. I go, well, you're just feeling relaxed. All you're feeling instead of survival mode, right? So that, to me, the GOAT, okay, Wim Hof breathing has everything in it. Over breath, you know, energy, but controlled, and breath holds, which are insanely awesome for your mind and your body. That's second, but number one to me is the coherence. So I always do Wim in the morning. I'll do 3-4 rounds, hold my breath, get the energy, and then I sit there with that energy and I connect my mind to my body, and I do 6 in, 6 out. And man, the rest of the day is just like, if I have to switch it on, I got it, energy, like right now. But then when I'm done, being able to touch both sides is what I'm saying. And that's where that mind-body thing is that if we can get the energy, but then slow it down, because we're all sympathetic tone. You know, after 2 years of what happened, couldn't even hold people, couldn't hug them. We're touching elbows. What the hell? All this stuff happening. Everybody's scared, watching numbers. So we went sympathetic. That's why my wellness center is just crushed right now. Like I've never seen so many people coming, because everybody needs to go to that other side and just touch. I always say it, just be able to touch parasympathetic, just to be able to relax, you know, and people are starting to realize that they're stuck up there, you know, and that's where it's, I really believe it's mind body. No matter what practice you're doing, whether you're in the gym lifting, you can create a mind body connection. And I teach military, like these guys want to be switched on. And I'm like going, well, actually you can be switched on better if you recover better. If you can come down here, then you go back to the, you know, field, or the guy in the gym comes back and he's like going, my workouts are much better. I go, yeah, because you've recovered. Because if you get that deep sleep, that's where the cells decouple. That's where the cellular machine repairs itself in the deep. The REM is when the mind compresses like zip file, puts it away into the hippocampus, limbic, and then all of a sudden, you know, your mind, it's unbelievable when your body and your mind have been reset for the next day. And folks out there, if you're listening, take your sleep serious. If you do, get a sleep coach, whatever, get on my site, send me, I'll send you the protocol. Like, I mean, I can't push it enough, man. Sleep is the key. The Wim Hof, guess what? You do cold, that makes your body work so hard to get back to homeostasis that it's working out every system. So when you lay down at night, and I love saying it, I go, you're going to leave this workshop. You can see them. They're all like this. They feel the energy. I said, you're going to be like this. You're going to go home and be texting friends. My God. And on the phone, this was great. I feel so much energy. I said, and then around 8 tonight, you're going to go, oh shit. And then you're going to be out like a light and have to, I get it all the time. They email me the next day and go, they don't sleep. And they're like, I slept for 8 hours, didn't move. It was the best sleep I've had in 10 years. And I'm like, there it is right there. And I tell them, stick with that.
Yeah, what you said was so powerful, man. Not only, I mean, the sleep is because I think everyone know, like we've kind of heard, yeah, sleep's important, and there's people talking about sleep, but I haven't heard people talking about it on the level that you're talking about it, with the breathing and the cold and using those tools, right? It's more just like I mean, yeah, people know, yeah, don't drink alcohol at night, don't eat right before bed, things like that. But the breathing in the ice is just a whole nother level. And also what you said about just in general, using the breath to get energized and then using the breath to relax and get into the parasympathetic, right? Like it's just incredible that so many people are walking through lives just shallow breathing, not even realizing the most incredible tool is right there for them to use, and they just don't even know about it. So I'm very happy that you're sharing this and spreading the word and helping people with this, man. It's really incredible.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, it's my pleasure. I mean, like yourself, we're on missions because we've been there. That kind of,
Hmm.
so to say, rock bottom or whatever, where, our health was
Hmm.
all of a sudden, we worried about so much shit before that, didn't we? And then all of a sudden we realized the only thing we need to be worrying about is our health. That's
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah. We always say
Yeah,
a healthy person has 1,000 wishes. A sick person has only one. All right. And I think
exactly.
yeah, people will prioritize. I tell people, guys, I'm in business masterminds with who have tons of money and they're just killing themselves working and not taking care of their health. And it's like, man, like go to the, do exercise in the middle of the day. Forget your work. Like you already have money. Like, and even if you don't, right? Like again, there's nothing that, if you don't have your health, you have nothing, right? If you had $100 million, but you were sick and didn't have your health, you'd pay $100 million. You'd pay every penny you had just to get your health back. So what's the point, man? Like it's yeah. People, I really hope people start getting this, thinking that way. And yeah, man, what you've been sharing is incredible. What's your Instagram and YouTube and should people just go on YouTube and type in Daniel DeLuise? So we have Daniel, then second word is DE, and then Luis, Luis, breathing on YouTube or something.
No, it's Dan and then DELUIS Wellness, and you'll see me. I think I got, like, I was in Jamaica with the hat on, and I had my beard braided. I get. I also teach authenticity, and I love being weird. That's the key. Also, that's a whole other podcast. You want to get into that one, but
Nice.
yeah, it's Dan DeLuise Wellness. Also on the Instagram, which I'm getting into now. I'm doing regular, but it's DAN_DELUIS. Yeah, and what else? I don't know what else. What else am I on there? Oh yeah, and then my coaching, my performance coaching website is DanDeluis.com. And yeah, I mean, they can reach me at dan.deluis@hotmail.com, and directly email me if they want to set something up. But yeah, man, it's been a pleasure, and really appreciate you having me on. And we're spreading some love, because all the love, all the power. That's what we say in the Wim Hof camp, man. You got love, you got the power.
I appreciate it. And this, man, this has been really amazing. It's really rekindled my thinking in terms of like, I need to really be utilizing this tool of breath work as much as I possibly can, this mindfulness, right? And I think the breath, what I'm just kind of re-energized about right now, and really excited to kind of revisit and check out your videos and kind of start learning how to. This is the most incredible tool that we have, the breath. We can use it to get energized. We can use it to relax and reduce stress and sleep better. And it's just such a powerful tool that I really hope this inspires more people to go watch your videos, go follow you, reach out to you to work with you and learn this stuff, because this is the most powerful tool. It can save people from being on prescription medication later on. It can save people from all sorts of issues if they just take the time, make it a priority, and learn it now. So thanks for sharing everything that you've been sharing here today, man. It's been really awesome.
Oh man, thank you very much, and it's been an honor, and I really appreciate you having me on. It's awesome.
Thank you. Talk soon.
All right, cheers, my man.
Thanks for listening. And just a reminder, if you haven't yet tried any of our Peak Performance products, you get 20% off your first order. We have one of the largest selection of USDA certified organic superfood powders, as well as very high quality supplements. And you get 20% off your first order at buypeakperformance.com. That's www.buypeakperformance.com.